welcome to GlideFast On Air. I'm Lauren Jankowski, the Marketing Manager here at GlideFast, and I'll be moderating today's webinar, How Northeastern Facilitated a Return to Campus Using ServiceNow's Safe Workplace Applications. I'd like to hand it over to our Director of Sales, Bob DiNapoli, to tell you all a little bit about GlideFast Consulting before we begin.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'd like to take a few minutes just to give everybody an overview of who GlideFast is, who we are, what we do, and where we add value. So just a little overview of, GlideFast is a pure play ServiceNow partner. We provide professional services for ServiceNow and ServiceNow only. It gets all of our attention. A couple differentiators about us. We were founded by ServiceNow architects, and over 50% of our staff has come from ServiceNow architects. We have 150 employees across the country at 27 different states and also in Canada. Between them, they have 400 plus ServiceNow certifications. We've also completed over 540 ServiceNow projects as an organization. We have a 4.8 average customer satisfaction score out of 5. We were also named a top 3 implementation partner in 2018. And in 2019, we were named Service Delivery Partner of the Year. Just recently, we were named number 341 on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in America. If you'd like to learn more about GlideFast, please reach out to us on LinkedIn, glidefast.com, and email us at info@glidefast.com to set up some time to learn more. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Lauren.
Thanks, Bob. As a perk of attending today's webinar, we'll be giving away a $50 Visa gift card. We'll announce the winner at the very end of today's session, so be sure to stay on for the entire webinar. I'm excited to hand things over to our presenters for today. We have Jonathan Jackson, a technical consultant at GlideFast Consulting, Bridget Whalen, the Director of Service Management and IT Operations from Northeastern University, and as you all heard from, Bob DiNapoli, our Director of Sales. Now, I'd like to hand things over to our technical consultant from GlideFast, Jonathan Jackson.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everyone for joining. So today's agenda, we just kind of want to take you on a journey of the Northeastern Safe Workplace applications and how they've implemented them for their return to campus in the fall. So first we'll discuss kind of the overview of wellness at Northeastern, kind of the background of their process that they go through, and then show you some of the actual applications within ServiceNow, including the daily wellness check, which is built on the employee health screening application, a wellness portal that was built within ServiceNow, the contact tracing application that's used by the contact tracing team at Northeastern, and finally, testing compliance. This is actually a scoped application, a custom application that we built for the university to be able to manage individuals who may fall out of compliance with testing protocols. And then finally, we'll wrap things up with a Q&A to answer any questions that you might have. So Northeastern, as part of their return to campus in the fall, they implemented a process whereby anyone that is attending the Boston campus is required to take a daily wellness check each day, where they indicate whether or not they have symptoms of COVID-19, as well as indicating whether they have had close contact with someone with COVID-19. In addition to that, they are doing testing on a regular basis for everyone that's located on the Boston campus. And this could vary between every 3 and 4 days, depending on what type of constituency that you are, whether you're faculty, staff, or student. And the university is actually performing over 5,000 tests per day. And the daily wellness check is a part of that process in ServiceNow to help facilitate the check-in process at the testing center. So the process that individuals go through is they schedule a COVID-19 test. This is actually outside of ServiceNow, but we have built a number of integrations with that application so we can present some of that information within ServiceNow. They take the daily wellness check again on a daily basis. And then on whatever day they're scheduled to show up for their test, they come to the testing site. They show their daily wellness check screen to the individuals checking them in at the testing centers. A QR code gets scanned. They get their test taken, and then they repeat that process. So then they go and they schedule their next test for either 3 or 4 days from now. And they just keep repeating this process throughout the week and throughout the weeks that they've been on campus. So the first step after they schedule their test, of course, is the daily wellness check. So this is built on the employee health screening application that's a part of ServiceNow Safe Workplace applications. So we did some modifications to the default out-of-box question that's asked to individuals. So individuals on a daily basis, they can pull up their phone. This is in the service portal, so it's mobile friendly. And basically just to indicate, do you have symptoms and have you had close contact with someone that has COVID-19? This information is then stored in the database, in the ServiceNow database, where information can be researched and looked at, see if there's any trends or anything like that. Once they take their daily wellness check, they're presented with different screens depending on one, their constituency type, whether they're faculty, staff, student, what campus they're associated with. So the Boston campus individuals will see a different screen than someone located at another campus of Northeastern University. And then depending on how they answer their questions, they'll get either a green screen if they've indicated no symptoms of COVID-19 and also have not reported any exposures to anyone with COVID-19, or they'll get what we call the red screen, which has that kind of red X or red cross through it, indicating that they should not leave their residence or their room on campus until they get more information from a wellness staff member or the contact tracing team. So of the three screens that we see here on the screen, the one on the left, this is the one that someone who doesn't have symptoms and has not been exposed to someone with COVID-19, they get the green check mark. If they scroll down the screen, they'll get information saying, you're allowed to come to campus today as long as you continue doing your testing process. The item in the middle, that's the one that's shown to anyone on the Boston campus who has indicated close contact with someone with COVID-19. So they're told not to leave their room or residence. They're instructed not to show up for their scheduled test today if they have a scheduled test, and they're instructed to contact the contact tracing team at Northeastern. And the contact tracing team will then kind of go through their steps and their processes to determine, whether this individual should go get an immediate test to see if they may test positive, or if maybe they just hang back and stay in their residence and quarantine or isolate through 14 days to determine to let that exposure time run out. And then finally, the one on the right, this is one that's presented to a student on the campus if they have indicated that they have symptoms. The university has contracted with Tufts Medical Center to handle some of those wellness contacts and that clinical diagnosis. So the student is instructed to contact the Tufts Medical Center to kind of validate their symptoms. If they have a runny nose, is the runny nose really something that's to be concerned with COVID, or might this individual just have allergies? So then that clinician is able to make a determination as to what that individual should do. I indicated previously that we built some integrations with the test scheduler. So one of those integrations is on the daily wellness check. If an individual has a test scheduled for today, the system will actually go out and will capture that information from the test scheduler. So that way, not only is the person that's taking the daily wellness check seeing that they do have a scheduled test today, the individuals who are checking them in at the testing center can also see that this individual has a test today, because like I said in the first slide, they're doing over 5,000 tests per day. So if they have additional people showing up to get tests, they kind of want to avoid that. So there is a check when someone shows up to get at the testing center to make sure that they actually have a test scheduled for that particular day. At the testing center, the QR code that we see on the screen, that's actually scanned by the individuals checking the person into the testing center. And that check-in application does a few things. One, it validates that the individual has taken their daily wellness check today. Also validating that they have reported no symptoms and have reported no close contact with anyone. And then verifying that that individual actually has a scheduled test within a specified window of time surrounding that test time. I think individuals can show up, 5 minutes before their scheduled test time and up to 15 minutes after. So that check-in process validates that this person's showing up at the correct time. When we initially deployed this, it was all kind of manual checks. So the individual checking someone in would look to see that they've got the green check mark. They'd see that they would look to see that they completed their daily check, and then they would validate through another resource, whether they have a scheduled test for that particular time. The QR code really cuts down on that manual process of someone having to check each element on the screen. So the QR code, they're able to scan that, and then the individuals at the test center can kind of get a green light or a red light on whether they should let this individual through the testing process. The wellness portal is kind of a one-stop portal that we developed to have pretty much anything dealing with any of the wellness activities that someone might have to go through. So we kind of made it really kind of simplistic, not too many colors. We kind of wanted, this is kind of a matter-of-fact thing that someone has to do on a daily basis. So we didn't want it to be too busy, but we still wanted to give individuals access to those other resources. So the left column, we see the daily wellness check. So that's where the individual can go and do their daily wellness check. Then below that, they've got access to see their current wellness status. So if someone asks to see what their current status is for the day, they can easily go pull that up. And then in the columns at the right, we've got links out to the COVID-19 test scheduler, which I mentioned was outside of ServiceNow. So this is just a link out to that application. And then test results. So Northeastern, the testing process happens, but then those test results need to come back, and the individuals who get tested need to know the results of those tests. So the university actually has two different labs that are processing those tests. So that's why there's two links there. So when an individual gets tested, they get informed which portal they need to go to see their test results. So they're able to get access to that through the ServiceNow portal. And then we have other wellness resources and forms for individuals to take. Individuals, when they came back to campus, they had to take a return to campus attestation that they kind of agreed that they were going to follow the testing protocols and follow the social distancing guidelines and wear masks, things like that. And then also a testing consent. Individuals had to consent to actually being tested. So those items are in there as well. On the contact tracing side of things, so the way Northeastern has set things up, they have a contact tracing team actually at the university that's working on the contact tracing. So because tests are administered at Northeastern and with a contracted lab that Northeastern works with, the contact tracing team is able to fairly quickly get results from the COVID-19 testing. So a positive test is identified. A case gets created in ServiceNow. Right now, this is a manual process, but we're working to automate that. So when a positive test gets logged in the system, we would be able to automatically create that contact tracing case. So the case gets created, the contact tracing team reaches out to the individual, talks to them, get any close contacts that they may have had, and then those close contacts are tracked and logged in ServiceNow for the contact tracing team. To then reach out to those individuals and put them into quarantine if they need to quarantine. And same thing with the individuals who tested positive, they go into isolation. And the contact tracing team manages that isolation and quarantine time through the contact tracing application. So it's not just kind of your typical contact tracing. It's more than that, because it's a college campus. The university wanted to be able to manage the care of those individuals while they're in isolation or quarantine. So we started with the out-of-the-box contact tracing application and then added custom fields to support Northeastern's business processes. And as I just mentioned, in addition to the traditional contact tracing, Northeastern's also managing the care of students while they're in quarantine or isolation. And this includes things as basic as meal delivery. If you think back to your college days, if you were isolated in your residence hall, you may not have had a stove. You may have just had a microwave and a micro fridge. So you may not have 2 weeks worth of food available to you. So the university is really managing that care by delivering meals to these individuals who are in this wellness housing while they go through their quarantine and isolation period. So we've got an example of the screen that we have configured in the contact tracing application. Across the top with the chevrons, we did change the case status from the default to really match what the contact tracing team sees as their steps in their process. The second field, we do have a spot for non-Northeastern person. The university has a lot of people on campus that don't have accounts at the university, so they don't get a record created inside of ServiceNow. So one of the examples is like the food service staff that works in the dining centers. They may not be actual university employees. They may be a third party that's providing that service, and they don't have any need to have access to university technology resources. So they don't have an account in any of Northeastern's systems. So we needed to be able to track an individual who does not have an account or a user record in ServiceNow. A number of demographic fields: date of birth, sex, Northeastern affiliation. These are added, I think, in a lot of cases because the university has to report back to the state of Massachusetts certain demographic data about individuals who have tested positive and individuals who are exposed contacts. So a lot of this is just to help facilitate that process. That way, the individuals who are reporting to the state system have that information readily available in reporting and things like that that they can send. The next thing that we're tracking is the address of the individual. You notice we actually have two address fields, one that's read-only and one that has more of a structured address. We started with the address field, just kind of a text box. But as the contact tracing team started getting new requirements and new reporting requirements, they realized that they wanted to put positive cases onto a heat map. So basically have a dot on a map of all of the cases on campus. So we realized we couldn't do that with that kind of free-form address field. So we made it into separate fields that's more structured. And what we're using the Google API, Google Maps API, to actually go out, take this address that's put in there, and then pull back in the latitude and longitude from the Google Maps API. And that allows the data analytics tool that the university uses, which is Power BI. It allows them to then take that data and put it on a map to show if there's any hotspots on campus. So that way they can kind of maybe pay attention to those areas. You know, if you see a certain residence hall has a large number of cases come in, they might take some remediation action out in that residence hall to try to combat that. And then they wanted just various test result information. So where was the testing site that the test came in? What type of test was performed? Things like that. This is really just for reporting that they're doing at the university. We're keeping track of key dates. So the date of symptom onset, the date the infectious period began. Also at the right there, the date to make the next call, like I mentioned earlier, since they're managing the care of these students while they're in isolation and quarantine, they're actually following up with them on maybe not quite a daily basis, but maybe every couple of days, just to kind of check in with them, see how their symptoms are, see how their symptoms are doing, see if they need anything help, anything provided to them. And then at the bottom, we've got isolation details. So the university is actually providing wellness housing to individuals who have tested positive. So, if someone's living in a house with a lot of people, they're offering that individual housing on campus so they can serve out their 14-week isolation period. So just indicators whether they have been moved to wellness housing, the address that they're located at during their isolation period, and then at the right, any dietary restrictions that they might have for that meal delivery. So they're able to provide that information to the dining services staff to know what type of food options and meal options to deliver to that individual. The classes attended and campus locations visited. So the university also wanted to be able to track, not only where an individual lives that has tested positive, but also what classes that they've attended. So we're keeping track of that. That way, they can go and check class rosters and have an idea of who might have been in the classroom at the same time that this individual was potentially infectious. And we're tracking building information, and that building information also has latitude and longitude information associated with it. So again, we're able to present that information in a heat map. Campus locations visited, students aren't just going to class, they're going to the dining centers, they're going to recreation facilities, they're going other places on campus besides class. So keeping track of that, what buildings they've been to, the library, things like that. So again, with everything matching to the building data within ServiceNow, we have the latitude and longitude so that they can, again, show that information on a heat map. And then finally, they wanted to start tracking off-campus locations visited. So if someone's gone to, in this example, Fenway Park, we can track that information. And again, we're using the Google Maps API on this as well with the address to pull in the latitude and longitude to see if there's any hotspots that these students may have visited. Along with the case record in ServiceNow, there are exposed contact records. So anyone who is identified as a close contact of someone that has tested positive gets a record created against them in ServiceNow. Pretty much the same fields that they wanted to track on the case, they also wanted to track as an exposed contact. Again, we have non-Northeastern person, students live with if they live off campus, they might live with a roommate that's not a Northeastern student. So they wanted to be able to track that information in case they needed to hand that information off to any public health authorities within the city. And the other thing that we've done, kind of two customizations that we made. The very top field is a number field. Out of the box, the exposed contacts table did not have a unique number associated with it. So we added that. That way the contact tracing team would know to reference a specific record number on the exposed contacts. And then the other thing that we did is if an individual who is a close contact eventually tests positive, that individual needs to become a case that then gets tracked on as kind of an independent case. We've got the ability that if an individual has tested positive, they can convert kind of this exposed contact to a case. So then we're able to see the originating case that this individual was infected from, but then also convert it to a case itself. That way they can contact trace this individual and kind of go down the line. And the final piece of what we've built is a scoped application to track testing compliance. So I mentioned that everyone on campus has to go through a regular cycle of testing, and that's either 3 or 4 days, depending on your constituent type at the university. If you fall out of that cycle, the university wants to know that and try to get you back into testing compliance. So if you miss a test, the university actually gives you 1 day past your actual due date to get a test. So if you've missed that date, then a case gets logged for you inside of ServiceNow. And then there are, this is actually done with a nightly data feed from the test scheduler. The test scheduler sort of serves as the system of record in terms of compliance, because it knows when an individual is supposed to take a test. Through the QR code scanning at the check-in, that data gets sent back to the test scheduler. So the test scheduler knows that you actually showed up to take your test. So that's really the system of truth that we're using. So there's a nightly API that we configured to send data into ServiceNow of anyone who is out of compliance. And that case gets assigned to an individual on campus, depending on whether you're faculty, staff, or student. So there's about, I think, 50 or so individuals on campus that are called points of contact in this compliance case, that it's their responsibility to then work with that individual to find out why they're out of compliance. Maybe they went home for the weekend and didn't get their test on Saturday. So they missed Saturday and Sunday, come back to campus Monday, they're gonna get tested, and then their case is gonna get closed. So probably not too big of a deal. But this also helps monitor individuals who may be negligent in their testing compliance and making sure that they get back into compliance. And then finally, that third piece, once an individual does get back into compliance, the test scheduler again sends another integration into ServiceNow to indicate that case should be closed. So the individuals the points of contact who are tracking these cases, if someone does come back into compliance, they don't need to go then and close that record. The test scheduler automatically closes that, and then that individual can then look at and manage the other cases that they have. So it's a very simple form that we created. We did extend it from the task table, but it creates a compliance task. Very few fields, just the case member, that's the individual who's out of compliance. We did expose the additional assignees list. That way there could be a number of individuals who can work this case at the same time. And then they can keep track of case notes. The one area that's highlighted in the top right is a view test history button. And what this allows is it allows the case managers to actually see the information that's in the test scheduler. So we're not actually storing this data in ServiceNow. It's just a very basic info message that shows up. But as they're working this case, they can see, how compliant has this individual been in the past. So they see things like, when is their next test due date? And then also that grace date that they get, any future scheduled appointments that they have. So if this case came in and this individual sees that the person has a test scheduled for tomorrow, maybe they won't follow up with that individual right away. Maybe they'll wait and see, do they actually show up to their test tomorrow? Maybe it was just a mistake that they missed a day, so that they no reason to reach out if they see that if they already have a test scheduled. And then they can see a list of their previous test attendance. So have they actually shown up and gotten scanned in at the testing centers? The university has exemptions codes. So if someone is working primarily remote, or as a student that's primarily remote, the test scheduler knows that. And then those individuals who are primarily remote don't have to come to campus each day to get tested. Only the individuals who are on campus full time are the ones that need to get tested. So we've got that information there just to see if there are any exemption codes. We see the test cadence, whether it's a 3 or 4 day cadence. And then finally at the right, we see a full listing of scheduled appointments that the individual has had really from the beginning. So we can see, kind of match it up, the history of scheduled appointments versus their test attendance. Do they actually show up to the tests that they're scheduled to attend? And then finally, within the case or within the compliance task, we've exposed the email client within ServiceNow, and we've developed quick messages. So as these individuals are working these cases, they can just pop in a quick templated email message to the individual. They can obviously edit it and customize it and things like that. But it just gives them a quick way that they can go in, get an email fired off to this individual. And then when this individual, if they do happen to reply to the email, it comes back into the case, just like any other record inside of ServiceNow. And that's really a good overview of everything that we've done at Northeastern over the past few months. So now I think I'll hand it over to Lauren to facilitate some questions and answers.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. That was awesome. And yes, we have tons of questions coming in. So the first one is, how long did it take you to deploy these applications?
Yeah, so the contact tracing application and the daily wellness check, we really did that in about 2 weeks. Basically, we got the requirements on a Friday. We had the following 2 weeks to work on it and deployed it that next Monday. And really, we really wanted to focus on kind of minimal viable product, so MVP, for that initial release, because there's a lot of things I think that want to be done, and we're still making iterations even today. But really 2 weeks for the contact tracing and the daily wellness check, and probably about a week and a half for the compliance tasks. So fairly quick turnaround on these, and ServiceNow allows us to really, it's built to allow for that rapid deployment. So it made things much easier to have these deployed that quickly.
Awesome. And this next question may be a question for Bridget, actually. How did Northeastern choose the technology used for contact tracing and wellness checks?
Yeah, sure. So we have a lot of experience with ServiceNow. We obviously didn't have Safe Workplace as a relatively new app. And we had started the summer with university leadership really like looking at how are we going to bring students back and keep them safe, which anybody on the call who works in higher ed can just imagine what an enormous task that is. Trying to figure out how do we get people tested, how often do we need to test them, how do we provide facilities and resources for them as we go through this process. So what we did is we started looking at different applications. We actually looked at Safe Workplace and then had some university members look at a few other applications, and we evaluated a whole bunch, but we ended up settling back with ServiceNow in large part because Safe Workplace offered some of the core functionality that we wanted to employ, but also we knew how extensible it was. So anything that wasn't in Safe Workplace at its core, we knew we could pretty easily extend it and customize it to meet our needs, and not in a heavy sort of way, and we could do it quickly. That was also the major need that we had, was that we had a very short time period to figure this out and get before students came back to campus. And we knew, just knowing the nature of it, and of course, being a university, we have, infectious disease experts and all of these people who know that and who knew that we needed to set up something like this in order to be able to even think about having students on campus and delivering that university experience for them. And as I'm sure everybody, there's a whole bunch of people on the call who saw in the fall, a lot of the universities who started before us across the country pretty immediately had to shut down. And if you looked at it, a lot of it was because they didn't have a really good handle on this, what is considered kind of the public health standard, right? That's what we're doing here at Northeastern. And not that I'm a public health expert, but if you look at how even the state of Massachusetts handles this, and other entities handle this, this is kind of the protocol, is that you have really good testing protocols, you have really good policies and enforcement of those policies, and contact tracing is how people kind of control the spread of COVID-19. So we saw pretty early on in the university communities that the universities who did not have a good handle and approach on this, it got away from them pretty quickly. And unfortunately, some of them had to even shut down. So Northeastern was very, very serious about keeping the students safe, invested a lot in ServiceNow, and knew that they could do it quickly and get us to a place where we could be ready to have students back on campus.
Awesome. And then here's another one. Are these all the safe workplace apps, or is this a subset? If a subset, what's next on your roadmap / Northeastern's roadmap?
Jay, I know it's a subset, but yeah, so it's basically contact tracing. JJ talked a little bit about the custom testing compliance application that we have, and then the wellness check. I don't know the specific name of the Safe Workplace app, but we call it the
the wellness check is the employee health screening application. So the two that we're using is the employee health screening and the contact tracing. As far as roadmap, I don't know. I don't know if Bridget, you've heard anything on anything new coming along, but I think I haven't yet.
Yeah, I haven't. The only thing that's really on the roadmap is making this available in a mobile experience for students. We are trying to figure out how we can possibly create a branded app that, using kind of the native, mobile app that is available through ServiceNow to let students do this, using their mobile device instead of the browser experience, via the portal.
Awesome. We still have a couple more. How are students modeled in ServiceNow? Consumers in CSM or employees in SWA?
So I think Northeastern just launched CSM a few weeks ago, I believe. So as of now, students are just user records in the sysuser table, and they have a constituency type identified as student. And then faculty staff obviously have that respective constituency type as well.
Awesome. Here's another one. So how long to go live? I know you said 2 weeks, but how many people are being supported with these apps? Are there any issues with performance or scaling?
So we haven't noticed any performance issues. We're trending about 6,000 to 7,000 daily wellness checks per day of the individuals who are on campus. So, we're getting a lot of those records, and I think we're up to just under 500,000, I think 450,000 individual daily wellness check records on the platform. So we haven't noticed any performance issues. I just looked today for the QR code screen. That's actually being accessed about 18,000 times per day. Mondays typically are higher, and then it kind of trails off through the week. But so, we're getting a lot of data that's being put into the platform, and no, we haven't noticed any performance issues. And that's on top of the other things that ServiceNow is used for at Northeastern besides the COVID wellness items.
Awesome. Someone did ask, how can we help other universities leverage ServiceNow for return to campus activities? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm trying to hack other universities. I guess maybe I need some clarification on what that.
JJ, I would just say, much like we did here with Northeastern, right? I mean,
yeah,
much like we did here. Like JJ said, if there's anything in particular you'd like to maybe discuss further or need more information on, we'd be more than happy to meet with you all and discuss. But yeah, absolutely, we'd be more than happy to touch on that.
Great. Well, that looks like all the questions that we had submitted. So thanks everyone for those questions. And if you still do have any questions or want to talk more, you could reach out to us at info@glidefast.com. And now I'd like to move on and announce the winner of our $50 Visa gift card. And it looks like the winner is Reed Allen. Congratulations, Reed. We'll email your prize to you directly. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and especially a big shout out to Bridget Whalen from Northeastern University for joining us today and sharing their success story that they've had with ServiceNow and using the Safe Workplace applications. And thank you to Jonathan Jackson, the TC that was on the project, and Bob DiNapoli, the sales executive that was on that project. Thank you everyone for joining, and to see more GlideFast on-air sessions, just visit us at our website at glidefast.com. Thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.